All right, Farmer Chris.
We do know season 5.
We do know it's season 5.
But we never know the episodes.
I think that's going to be the running joke for the life of this.
Yeah.
The life of this podcast.
You know, I did see a couple podcasts pop up. You've been on the road without me and cheating on me.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. I kept a Chris involved.
Yeah, you had a Chris involved in
We're back to just the two of us. We love having guests on the podcast, but the feedback sometimes suggests that they just like to hear us ramble on.
We run out of things to ramble on sometimes.
I know.
But it looked like Bill's done a pretty good job with his podcast.
Yeah, Bill's, if you guys haven't seen the podcast with Bill, that one got a little bit off the rails because Brian and Chris were there, which I'm glad they were there. And I may still try doing their podcast with Bill. But Bill's a very, very interesting creature.
Yeah.
He has seen a lot in this industry. He has done a lot in this industry. He's been a tremendous help to me with just some connections and some finagling and some stuff. And I'm probably a little biased, but Bill is a huge asset to any company he helps.
Is it? Yeah.
Now, with all that being said, I fully understand Bill's services are not cheap, but I think Mark. So we're gonna get off.
We're off topic. We're off
the rails. So marketing is such a subjective industry. In some ways, I'd almost compare it to the weatherman.
Yeah.
Like, you can literally do nothing and say you did something and demand to get paid, and nobody really has the grounds to stand on.
Oh, there ain't no way to grade it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like any other industry out there. You get these marketing firms that promise you the world, you pay them their contracted amount, and you get nothing in return. And they're like, oh, well, it didn't work.
Yep.
Well, that's what I really, really, really like about Bill is his contract amount is not cheap. I'm well aware of it. But being involved with all these different marketing people and all these different marketing firms, Bill's team is working 24/7.
They take time to go back and grade what they've done too, I guess.
That's exactly right. They go back and see what works for this customer, didn't work for this customer. It's not blanket coverage. They really tailor to the needs of that particular customer. And
they're not all cookie cutter contractors.
And if they build a plan that's not working, they're not afraid to change gears and go a different direction. So I don't know. I really just appreciate that about Bill, and I'd like to get in more depth with that of him on one-on-one, and we might one of these days.
I got to laughing at his. He was talking about rolled of concrete when you met him out there. And how
were there
bad?
for that.
I think me and man behind the scenes felt worse than he did.
Yeah.
For sure.
He must have been feeling worse than I thought because he thought that was our first meeting and that was our third meeting.
Oh, that was already your third meeting. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. Chris and Brian, they chimed in and worked, but it'd be a good one with Bill.
Yeah, get Bill one-on-one.
But it was
nice to have Chris there too, because honestly, Chris has been doing this longer than me, and our experiences with sponsors are similar but different at the same time. But the one common, Chris and I both work with a couple different mutual guys now, but and Christy and I had this conversation. Nothing against any other marketing person I've ever worked with, but Bill has worked in our shoes, so he understands where we're coming from, and sometimes that's a little bit of a struggle. So.
And then 2 podcasts ago, it looks like Gunner and Bo had some fun in the background with you guys.
So the background behind that podcast is we were actually up there doing the first live for the National Equipment League.
Oh, yeah.
And they were excellent during the live. They sat over in a corner. They didn't bother nobody, mind their own business. But by the time the podcast came around, they were getting restless.
They were getting restless, yeah.
But
I was laughing at some of their little skits they was putting on for sure. So.
They were having a good time. And then we had Jeff, Billy Good Farms on. Jeff's a really interesting guy. I am glad Chris set in for that one because Chris knows
his operation. Chris
knows Jeff a whole lot better than I do. So it was kind of cool to get a little insight. Their relationship's a lot like our relationship. That's one of Chris's
number one ag customers down there.
Well, it's not an ag customer. He's one of Chris's regular customers, and they live pretty close together, and they've become pretty good friends. So it was cool to get Jeff on. And we actually went over after the podcast and checked out his project. He's got a really cool project going on. He's just using that other no-name block. So, but
Send a text here real quick. I hate to do it right in the middle, but
oh, you're fine. We're always working. You think people realize that we spend our Sunday afternoons talking to a camera in a shop with nobody else?
oh, I know. Yeah. Well, Sunday's about the only time we can get in together. I mean, you kind of take the day off, and
Yeah, this is my YouTube day, so.
Sundays ain't always a day off for me, but I just got out of church and cleaned up, and I'd run down here. But
I just got done spending the last 48 hours with 4 14-year-old girls and myself.
you want to get away from them, don't you?
I need a break.
Yeah.
They did good. They behaved themselves. Top Golf has a scoring issue. Actually, maybe I had a misunderstanding. I thought golf, you needed the lowest score to win. Probably it don't work that way at Top Golf.
Well, that's why I thought golf was the lowest top
Well,
golf.
if the lowest score wins, I won every round.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm going to go with.
Maybe somebody's not educated.
I told the girls this morning. I said I got a text from Top Golf. They apologize for having a scoring malfunction.
Oh, wow. So you saying one of them beat you?
All three of them beat me.
Really?
All four of them. Was there three or four of them? I should know this. There was four of them. All four of them beat me. They were getting lucky.
Yep.
Crazy lucky. So, all right, Farmer Chris, this is what we're going to dive into today. We did, was it the second or the first podcast this season? We did like a little look behind the curtain
Of Dirt Perfect.
The Dirt Perfect operation.
Yep.
And we had some requests of the look behind the curtain of the Farmer Chris operation.
It's about like any of them, it's an ever-changing operation day by day.
Well, I feel like we've covered pieces and parts of the story over the last 2 years, kind of different things, but we'll kind of string it all together in one podcast here for you guys. But I guess let's back it up to you getting out of high school. So whenever you got out of high school, your dad, if you guys remember from the last podcast, your dad was, I don't know, I'd say seriously hobby farming. Would that be a good
Oh,
way to
yeah.
put it?
Yep. He was, when I was in high school, Dad was farming 30 to 40 acres of grain himself. I think he only rented the one 10-acre farm. 10 to 12 cows. We put up a confined feeding operation, one building in 95, one building in 96, and then I graduated in 97. So a lot of things really started transitioning
Right as you were graduating.
in the mid-90s because, like Dad said, he went from packing suitcases traveling to staying at home with the pigs.
Right.
I was getting of age to understand some things. I had actually picked up 2 farms myself to rent, and then we kind of started merging.
Gotcha.
At that point. So,
Whenever you graduated high school, there was not this huge family farming operation for you to step into.
no. At this point, Grandpa and our neighbor had already slowing down, already retired.
Right.
My uncle ended up with pretty much everything my grandpa had. The neighbor, we're pretty fortunate there that his two living children at the time was off farm, so they had no
interest in
the farming. Unfortunately, he got Alzheimer's and then had to spend some time in the nursing home. So they hired us to manage their operation for them, so they could keep it, and then try to keep the nursing home from getting a hold of it. Yep. So at that point, we started going, which 10 years later, me and John ended up buying the farm from them. So, but yeah, just as soon as when I graduated school, me and Dad might have been farming 120 acres of corn, but we did have the 2 hog barns, running. That was our
Right. I want to get into the diversity of the farm here in a little bit because that plays into a few different things. But so whenever you graduated high school, I know the podcast, I'm referring to the podcast with your dad again. Obviously, your dad was a union tradesman.
Yep.
And that's kind of the direction you trended, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep. I took several different career paths all at one time too. I'd like to back up about 2 years into high school.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when we built our first building in '95, all of our pigs were going to Swift at Louisville, Kentucky. So we bought a gooseneck trailer, and we hauled all of our own pigs. This expanded really quick. We bought a trailer that only hauled 32 head, and we was making 4 loads a night to Louisville.
Which, for people to know, that's
about an hour one way.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's every bit of a 2.5 hour round trip.
Round trip, yeah. Time to get up there and unloaded.
Yeah.
So we ramped up trailer size, and then we started custom hauling pigs for other farms in Perry Spencer, DuBois County here. So then we got in partnership with my uncle. He had the truck. Uncle and Dad.
Is this Bill?
Bill.
I did not know
We
this.
partnered on the trailer. So he worked second shift and hauled hogs in the morning. Me and Dad either worked through the day or went to school, and then we hauled pigs in the evening. So that truck and trailer hauled 2 to 3 loads a day.
Every day.
6 days a week. And that trailer never got unhooked off that truck for 2 years.
Really? Pickup truck?
A 3/4 ton pickup truck, Chevy. And so, I'd get off school at 3, get home at 3:30. I'd hop in the truck at 4:30, 5, go get a load, run to Louisville, unload, get home, do the biosecurity. The trailer got washed after every load. So I might get to bed at midnight and get up at 6 and go to school the next day. So that involved that, my senior year, I was tired.
Yeah.
I slept through a lot of classes. I don't know how I graduated high school. I don't know how I graduated my senior year. So yeah, I ran a daily job.
Just out of curiosity, was the farm compensating you for this?
I got the trucking check minus the fuel.
You got the trucking check minus the fuel?
Yep. So it was a decent income for a senior.
Yeah.
My uncle had the truck, Dad had the trailer. I paid for fuel and got the proceeds from checking. So there was a couple classes. I set my senior year up. We've covered it before. Back in the '90s, they was pushing Core 40 for college.
Oh yeah.
So I hustled from my freshman year through junior. So come my senior year, I only needed English 12 and government to graduate. I had my 40 credits. So I had 2 study halls booked in, a foods class, a wood shop class.
So you had some rest time.
I had some rest time, but still, it was So even then, after I graduated school, I was between ITT at Evansville,
Yep.
doing AutoCAD stuff because I really enjoyed AutoCAD through school, or pursue the ag and go to Purdue. Toured both campuses. I ended up going to Purdue for a year. And
That was for ag though, right?
that was for ag management, so way above my country boy league. It was
so I'm gonna ask
huge
you-
campus.
I'm gonna ask you off the wall here a question, and I don't know how to ask this without sounding like a complete ass. But I know this was what, 20-something years ago.
Oh yeah, every bit of it, yeah.
So knowing what you know now about farming from the school of your dad would say Hard Knocks,
Yep.
and knowing what they were trying to teach you up there, how much of it do you think was actually relative to what you needed to know?
Very little.
That's what I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say.
Because we was taking algebra classes, English classes up there.
Yeah.
The animal science class was, if I would have paid attention, would have been helpful.
Yeah.
And an ag econ class would have been helpful. But the ag econ class was at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was about a 3-mile bike ride.
Trying to say you're not a bike rider?
I'm not a biker. I used to be, but man, when you're fighting snow,
Yeah.
pedal at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That was my thing with college back in the day. Is I felt like 90% of the curriculum didn't apply to what you needed,
Yeah.
and then what did apply, they always tried to twist it a way that involved a perfect world.
Yeah.
We don't live in a perfect world.
You know, my biology class at the first year at Purdue had 800 kids in it in an auditorium. Just not my learning style. You know, if you didn't sit there and take notes and study notes and do your own work, I mean, I partied too much when I was there.
Yeah, well, there's that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, so
So
I was asked not to come back.
So it wasn't your choice to leave.
No, it was not my choice to leave. I probably would have left anyways because it was a mutual.
It was a mutual split.
Mutual split.
They just beat you to the punch.
Yep. So, but you know, there again, I'm glad I went. Glad I seen the lifestyle. But
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good point because now you don't have to wonder what it would have been like.
Yeah.
You know what it would have been like. And,
I've done.
And what that was 6-8 months out of your life. I mean, that's valuable time. That's kind of a blimp on the radar as well.
But you know, I drove home every weekend because we was farming yet. You know, a little. So. You know, I tried to get home and help what I could. I just couldn't leave home.
Yeah. No, I was the same way. I never went to college. I went to college in Indianapolis, which is a little closer than where you were at. But I was still home every weekend working in one of the family businesses or just hanging out with friends. I mean, I love to travel, but home's home.
Yeah, home's home.
There's no doubt about that whatsoever. So I guess this exposure to the farm lifestyle in high school obviously didn't deter you from
pursuing it.
Yeah.
Not at the time because I wasn't in the economics part of it. You know, I was in the fun part, the operation and whatever it cost. You know, I didn't know the inputs and expenses. Yeah. You know, at that time, I was just
the checks and the balances.
I didn't know the checks and balances. I was driving tractors, hauling pigs, and things were happening.
Not sitting behind a desk.
Yep.
So we can go through this as fast or as slow as you want to, but between you leaving Purdue and then eventually ended up back in full-time on the farm, there was a couple different versions of Farmer Chris.
Yeah, there were several different versions. So after Purdue, my aunt built a house there that following summer, just about a quarter mile from the house. So a father and 3 sons was doing the contracting work and being nosy, helpful, community. We got visitors here.
Oh, it's just Gunner.
And I was always up there, you know.
Which contractor was this?
Sturgeons. They're out of English. Jerry Sturgeon was his name, was the dad. Kenny, Brian, and Stu helped him on the side. Kenny and Brian were union sprinkler fitters.
Okay.
So they kind of seen my
work ethic, curiosity.
Yep. Not knowing the rules. If you work a union job one day, the union has to accept you.
Really?
Yes. And Kenny said, "Come on, let's go to work." And we was working at GPC at Washington. That's where they was working. I hopped the truck and went to work with them for a week. And it went on about 2 weeks, and then the BA, business agent for the union, caught wind of it. We had a high-profile heart-to-heart meeting in Evansville. I got my hand slapped. Kenny got his hand really slapped. Welcome to the trade. Let's go. So it wasn't the proper way to get into the union.
But you were in.
Kenny knew the ropes and got me in.
Yeah.
We worked Indy, Louisville, Cincinnati. I was with Apex Industries. When you're an apprentice and you get into a company.
So just for everybody listening, Indy, 3 hours from here, Cincinnati, 2.5 hours from here, Louisville, about an hour.
Yep.
You went to college in Lafayette, which is 4.5, 5 hours.
4 hours, yeah.
Yeah, so you're all still within driving distance of home here, but just to kind of give you a range of where you're at.
Kenny got his younger brother, Stu, into the trade. And, then Kenny and Brian left this Apex Industries and took off to North Star, which is based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So when you're an apprentice with a company, you can't quit that company and go to another company. They got to lay you off.
So you were stuck where you were?
So I was stuck where I was at. So Apex ended up having a 2 or 3 week break and some work. Wanted me to sit at home. I talked them into laying me off so I could draw unemployment. And then I went to North Star with the rest of them. So we worked in Minneapolis 4 weeks. North Star opened up a shop in downtown Chicago and asked the 4 of us to go down there, 5 of us, I guess, and run that shop. So we got an apartment downtown Chicago.
Farmer Chris in the big city.
The first building was 4 blocks away from our apartment. It was a 62-story high-rise. I seen that from the basement all the way to 650 feet to the peak. We was putting fire protection in. Helped remodel Soldier Field, helped remodel Midway Airport. So I was in sprinkler trade about 5 years.
Yeah.
I actually worked as a journeyman about a week and then packed up and left. So I'd went through, which for the sprinkler trade, they use Penn State University. So I was back in a Big Ten school.
Big Ten school, yeah.
Never stepped foot on campus, everything through the mail. So I do have a associate's degree in fire protection.
And that's in my opinion, especially if you're going to be in the trades or anything hands-on, that's the proper way to get a degree.
Yeah.
Because they do provide the literature you do need to know to be as far as codes and
yeah, all the homework was job related that I could relate. There wasn't no English class
but then,
in here.
But then instead of you paying them to learn, you're getting paid to gain experience, which is the most valuable learning you can do. But you still walk away with that degree.
There again in Chicago, we drove home about 99% of the weekends. We worked 3 12s and a 4.
So that'd give you a longer weekend.
And give us a longer weekend. So because you're on the road, you want to work 12-hour days.
Yeah.
But we didn't have.
You're there to work. You're not there to do.
We didn't have a need to work anything over 40 hours. So once we got our 40 hours in, we was closing up game box 10 o'clock Thursday morning, and I was back home by 4 or 5 o'clock Thursday evening.
Yeah. We head back up Sunday night.
We head out Sunday evening and head up. Yeah.
So what was the, I mean, obviously you're well on your way to a very lucrative career in the sprinkler fitters. I mean, what was the switch that flipped that said, I want to get the heck out of here?
So Chicago has a closed union. I work for Local 669, which covers the whole United States, except for about 8 closed locals, they call them. So these are like major cities, has their own sprinkler fitter locals. Their work started getting slow. They started getting people on their books that didn't have jobs. And they really frowned on apprenticeships. Really? Traveling into their union.
So you were basically traveling into a closed circle.
I was closing it. I was traveling from my local union into their local. They had journeymen sitting on the books and hearing apprentices coming in doing their job.
So union politics.
Union politics. 2 of us got kicked out North Star had a shop in Columbus, Ohio, which was still in our local 669 then. So 2 of us went to Columbus, Ohio. We worked on about 4 or 5 different jobs. Our goal was to get them caught up. That shop was behind on jobs. They give us small jobs just to get a bunch of jobs in the books and done. They wanted us to head to Syracuse, New York to run a job. And back then, I mean, this is 2005. Cell phones wasn't as sophisticated as they are today. We had no MAT Atlas, you know.
Yeah.
And we left the shop with a company truck, company tools. We left. They assumed we was going to Syracuse, New York. Between the shop and the interstate, I had added up that was 14 hours from home. I looked at that guy, I said, we ain't going to drive home every weekend from Syracuse. He goes, I don't like that. And I said, I'm not very fond of it either. We turned and went to Southern Indiana, parked the truck, told them we quit and come get it. And I've never hung another piece of pipe.
Really?
They thought we was headed to Syracuse, New York the whole time.
Never mind. They're still waiting on you.
I guess. So, yeah, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And we didn't mind traveling as long as we could stay 5 or 6 miles from home.
5 or 6
or 5 or 6 hours from home, you know. And we like staying together as a group, you know.
Well, I think that goes in a lot of occupations. Sometimes it's not as much about what you do, but who you work with.
Yeah. Well, we all knew we had teams, you know, and we knew which other one was going to do. And
Because your dad even talked about that in the Boilermakers, and Aaron even talks about
yeah, he had his own welding partner.
Yeah.
Yep, there was two of us. Me and Brian done a lot of work together. And
I don't want to go off onto another whole subject here, but I think that's where a lot of management gets things wrong. They don't understand the value of the cohesiveness of how important that is as far as. Because if it wasn't for that, if that management of that company would have been smart enough to realize that situation, there's a chance you'd still be hanging pipe today.
Oh yeah, there's a small chance, but yeah.
But I mean, they at least would have gotten there a couple years out of you.
And the thing we found, I didn't have to learn. Kenny had already learned because he had worked local. I mean, there's sprinkler fitters here.
Yeah.
The local companies just doesn't seem like to take care of their men as much as a company when you're traveling with a company.
Yeah.
I mean, they paid for our apartment. They paid for company truck, company gas card. We still got our $50 a day per diem.
Yep.
But they seen our work ethic. They had value in us and was willing to invest. And I mean, we knocked jobs out and moved on.
Yeah, whenever I went to college in Indianapolis, we back then you had to beg and beg. It wasn't like today where you just walk in and a warm body got a job.
Yeah.
And I was in a similar boat. I wanted a job where I could come home on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And finally got a meeting with a manager at a Lowe's, which is a retail store. Well, weekends are their busy time, right? Yeah. And I told them they really needed somebody to unload trucks. I said, well, trucks don't come in on the weekends, do they? He said, no, it's through the week. I said, but they unload them at night. I said, that's perfect. I said, we'll go to school during the day. We'll unload these trucks in the evenings. He's like, but it takes 8 hours to unload a truck.
Oh, wow. And
I've already worked at S&S, and I've unloaded a lot of trucks in my day.
Yeah.
I said, how many guys? He said, 6 guys. And, of course, I'm just this little bitty old college kid talking to this ex-Marine.
Yeah.
I said, you hire me and 2 of my buddies, and you give me 1 guy out of the store just to move pallets around. I've never unloaded a truck a day in my life at Lowe's. I had no idea what their systems were. I said, we'll have our truck unloaded in 4 hours. And no way. I said, give us a shot, bud. And then, of course, I was hoping for like $7 or $8 an hour. Mm-hmm. They offered us $12 an hour, which was like unheard of back here. And we showed up. We didn't even work hard to load the first truck in 3.5 hours.
Really?
And then, our pay's doubled, and they're like, just get out of their way.
Yep.
And the whole purpose behind that is the different work ethics in different places is majorly different.
And that was one thing similar to that when we went to Columbus, Ohio. They take 2 of us to a job and say, all right, we need this job knocked out. We got it bid for 80 man hours. 2 guys, 40-hour weeks. Monday evening, we were so close to finishing at 12 hours. We worked both of us worked 14 hours. We had 28 man hours and had the job completed.
Right.
Call them and say, okay, what do you want to do next? You got that done already? Yeah. Well, we ain't even got the next job site ready for you guys. So we could come home Monday night and they'd pay us 40 each. So that's what we got at bid. Yeah. You knocked it out. Here's your bonus. Go home.
And to your point, travel companies do understand. I think just because they're exposed to it more, they do seem to understand that better. And Aaron kind of alluded to that the other day too. These bigger companies that work in multiple parts of the country and understand the value of guys and their work ethic. They're able to spot that and appreciate it a little quicker than a local company is.
And I think the other benefit of this was with North Star Industries we worked for, most of the job, 90% of the jobs they wouldn't even bid on unless the sprinkler part was $1 million bid.
So
they wanted large jobs. They wanted big multi-year projects.
So you park the company truck, you head back to Perry County.
We're at 700 acres, probably 700 acres. I was going to say,
you still don't technically have a family farm to come back to. I mean,
no,
it's grown.
I thought we did.
Yeah.
And I think I farmed with Dad. Dad's still working construction in and out.
What's the year stamp on this?
2005, 2006. I was able to to have a good time as a younger adult, farming for about a year. Then the checkbook started. You know, I had saved a bunch of money. When you're on the road,
Yeah.
making $33 an hour, your
Back
savings.
in 2005.
In 2005, your savings gets built up, but it didn't take long for Farmer Chris
You
to
were rich and didn't even know it.
dwindle her down, yeah. So I was around the farm for about a year. And the person we was raising pigs for was needing a truck driver to haul pigs. And I said, well, I ain't got my CDLs, but, you know, at this time, we had bought our semi in 2002, so I've got
Experience.
4 years experience driving a truck, you know, hauling pigs with our trailer, pulling dump trailers. So I said, yeah, you know, I've got time. I'll come help. So that was a Freightliner Century class sleeper truck, you know, pulling the 53-foot stock trailers. And when I left the house Sunday at noon, I didn't get back till Friday at noon. I lived in that truck. I mean, we hauled hogs. I mean, it was
On the move.
It was, you know, most of the hog hauling you got to do in the cooler weather. So you'd start loading at 6 in the morning,
Yeah.
get to Louisville, unload. I'd usually lay down to sleep for about noon. Well, by 4 that evening, you had to get up to get to your evening load. So it went from, Hoover don't need to be listening to this, but so you go from 4 to like midnight.
Yeah.
And at midnight, you lay down from midnight to 4 in the morning, and then you got up and started moving on to be ready to load. So, you know, we got 8 hours off, but it was in 2 4-hour shifts.
Shifts, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're living out of a truck.
Living out of a truck, very seldom left Indiana.
And the other thing to point out is hauling livestock is not like hauling a load of lumber. There's a lot
Yeah.
more to.
Once you're loaded, you don't stop.
Yeah.
You got to go to your destination. I've been into several scenarios. I wish I was hauling lumber
Yeah.
to stop. You know, there was one night we loaded out of Vincennes, Indiana, and it was snowing so freaking hard. Time I got down to the interstate at the Ferdinand exit, state cops was there. The interstate was closed. Snowflakes the size of your hand. I said, I'm loaded with hogs.
Gotta go.
It's got to go, or you're responsible for this load. And he said, well, you're at your own risk. What should have took me an hour and 5 minutes took me 4 hours to get to Louisville that evening.
Yeah.
And I wish, you know, if you had lumber, you
Just park it.
park it and call it a night. So,
Yeah.
and then another day, I was actually coming out of the same Vincennes farm. I come into Petersburg, Indiana. City cop there stopped me. I said, what's going on? He said, oh, there's a parade going through town. It's already 95 degrees, and these hogs are squealing. I said, you're responsible for every dead animal on this truck. And I could see the parade coming at me. And when they got to me, they was going to take a left and go down through Main Street of town. He goes, if you take a right and go down the parade route, go outside town, you take a left and come get back on your route. As soon as I turned right, the fire trucks and shit pulled right in behind me. I was the lead vehicle of the Petersburg parade. Well, I just blew the air horn, waved at everybody else going down through there. Yeah. So the pigs had to roll. I had a lot of fun doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
I done a lot of stupid shit. I done a lot of shit that shouldn't have been done.
I think that's one of those jobs. It's probably a lot of fun and a good challenge, but
You need to be young to do it.
well, and it eventually takes its toll. Like enough's enough.
You know, because we were still farming, so we get into springtime and fall. You know, there was some days, every other week I had to go to Jericho, Iowa, and get a load of pigs and bring back to Evansville. I could leave. We loaded at 4 in the evening. I could leave the house Monday morning, get to Jericho, Iowa, get loaded, get back to Evansville, unload, and be back home in 23 hours. It was 1,400-mile round trip. Just so I could get back home and be ready to farm.
Be ready to
again.
farm.
Yeah,
Get that load out of the way.
get that load. So
So how many years were you at? How many years? Did you
I was
have?
in that truck about a year and a half. The last week I drove that truck, I was up 44 hours, slept 4 hours, drove another 40 hours. But Wednesday night I had 84 hours in. I said,
Nothing
I can't do it. It's enough. I mean,
Yeah.
the farm needs attention at home. You're about to kill me here. Parked the truck and went home.
So was that so at this point, whenever I'm going to say, kind of come home to the family farm for?
There again, I made another shot at it. You know, we're closing in on 2009, 2010. Dad retired. I think he retired in 2010. John's at John Deere School.
Your brother?
My brother. He went to Vincennes University for John Deere Ag Mechanic. They sponsored the class there. I even had him run some hogs with me before driving.
This is definitely, this will be the title of this video is Officer Hoover, Please Don't Listen.
Officer Hoover, don't listen, yeah. So I knew where the scales was between our house and Jericho, Iowa, and I'd put John in. I'd climb in the bunk and sleep. He's 17, 18.
Yeah. Well, very capable of driving truck.
Very capable of driving truck. Farm plates on the truck. It wasn't a full-time job, so at that time we were still legal drivers for it. He'd stop the exit before the scale. I'd get in, drive it through the scale, stop the next exit, put him back in the driver's seat, and I'd climb in the bunk and sleep again. So
Good to go.
So he had his driving abilities too. But then 2010, this 2010 area, 2009 was a rough year on us. The spring of 2010, we posted all of our equipment for sale.
So what was it a downturn in the economy? Was it the drought? What was the?
It was a bad economy, 07, 08. I think took a hit in the ag
08
economy.
was the housing market crisis.
Yep, prices, droughts. We just felt like we was upside down. We was tired of fighting it.
Right.
Dad still had control of he was doing all the financing. And we just decided that was it, put all of our equipment up for sale. And we was done farming.
This was 2009.
Spring of 2010, we put all of our equipment up for sale.
And you were on the farm working.
I was on the farm working at this time.
So obviously that had to have been
There were some tears shedded and
yeah,
some
that had to be
heartbreak,
a pretty damn tough decision.
and then on the next day, it was such a relief. We're just done with it,
Right. Well, obviously you didn't walk too far away. So.
We ended up selling 4 or 5 pieces of equipment right away, and it was equipment that didn't affect us. I slept on a couple nights and come up with a business plan to move forwards. Was it the right business plan? I don't know.
Would you say this was the time stamp where you pretty much committed to being a farmer?
Yeah.
That was the decision right then and there.
Yep, I had one more job I worked, but it was a local job, so
Just basically spotting trailers.
spotting trailers here. So it was tough. 10 was tough. We're 1,300 acres, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
We planted 100% soybeans, limited the inputs. We were just going to wing it, and it was what it was, you know.
Kind of a Hail Mary pass.
Hail Mary pass. We're going to go out swinging, you know. We worked out deals with our local vendors, to carry some debt for us. Some old debt they carried, and I ain't going to say it was almost like a bankruptcy. They wasn't going to claim off. But it was something we worked with them. We didn't use lawyers and.
Well, it's one of those you acknowledged, which I think is an important lesson to learn because instead of hiding from your debts, letting everybody know what the situation is because they want paid, and if you disappear, there's no chance of getting paid.
From 2010 to today, the best piece of knowledge I learned, and I will preach. If somebody calls wanting money, pick up that phone and talk to them. That's all they want. They want to hear a voice. They want to know what's going on. You hear so many people ignoring calls, leaving the country, coming back, and it just starts snowballing.
Radio silence,
Yep. So, and it worked. 2010 worked. We shelled beans, got all of our debt paid off, our current debt, and in 2011 we picked up another 400 acres and we was rolling again. We just wasn't smart enough to stay happy where we were. We got to go. We're good. Let's get bigger and let's keep going.
Oh, so you went from throwing in the towel to let's put more fuel in the fire.
Yep, let's put more fuel in the fire. It's burning. So
So
and then 20.
so at this
was
part
it-
of the operation, it was basically you and your dad, right? 'Cause
Me and
John,
my dad, and John was farming on the weekends with us.
Yeah, so John was working a full-time job, but he wasn't full-time on the farm.
He was not full-time on the job. He was at, used to be Stone Stimley in Jasper.
John Deere
That's a John Deere dealership, so yeah.
So that arrangement continued for what, 4 years?
Yeah, probably so. I worked like 2012, 2013. I worked here in Tell City. I had to take 6 dump trailers a night. I had to take them about 3 miles and dump them at a Wapaka foundry
Probably not even 3 miles, but
and unhook them.
yeah.
When I started, I could do 6 trailers in 4 hours. So I started at 4, I was off at 8. I was in bed by 8:30
Yeah.
and farm all day.
And you were 20 minutes from the house.
20 minutes from the house. When I quit at the end of the, I was with them about 2 years. I started at 4 and I was getting off at 2 or 3 in the morning. Their conveyor pit equipment was just downgraded. They didn't want to put money into it.
So what should have took 4 hours was taking 6
Yeah, hours. It was getting frustrated. I was burning candle on both ends. You know, I was working a job at second shift and trying to start farming at 6. And, you know, I caught myself while I was dumping, you know, the trailers. It took, you know, at the end, it took an hour and a half for a dump trailer. You just stood it up and let it gravity feed off in the pit, you know. I was taking hour naps, you know. I was just tired.
Yeah. Knew that it was an unsustainable pace.
Yeah. So then we come back. I come back home to the farm. Then that's the only off-farm job I've worked.
Since.
So yeah, since I've been home, I've been 100% full-time farm for 12 years now.
So when did John officially join you full-time? Because that was the next big step for the farm, wasn't it?
Yes, John there the last year he worked out with John Deere to work 410s. He got May, June, October, November off.
Which is almost unheard of. 'Cause that's the busy time of years.
But the ag economy was at that time going down again.
Yeah.
You know, we had our 2012 drought year, which ag economy just exploded. And then you got into 13, 14. It reversed real quick. So they didn't have a need. They didn't have to pay him to stand around because he was willing to go home 4 months out of the year. And that went on for about a year.
He was already trained up. They had already invested in his education.
Yep. And then that went on for about a year. Then the ag mechanic crashed and they laid him off, you know, which we thought was going to work good for us to come home full time. But in 2015, we had a crash again for our economics.
Yeah.
And that's when we ran across our current bank. And they have done tremendous
Because
wonders.
I've heard stories and so on and such, but in 2015, you're getting pretty close to putting everything up for sale again, right?
The spring of 2015, we was not confident we was going to plant a crop in 2015.
Yeah.
I happened to be at the Farm Machinery Show, which is mid-February. I run across this financial institute on a Saturday evening, which is the last day of the show. They had a representative sitting at our kitchen table Monday morning, and we was rolling. So
And
that was life-changing.
And you still deal with them yet today.
We still deal with them today. So we're going on 10 years of business.
And with a little bit of luck, we might actually have them on the podcast.
I am working with,
because there's a wealth of knowledge there.
he is very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He's been in the ag banking industry pretty much his whole life, and he farms on the side too.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on just to, farming is, whether it's banking, trucking, the business model, it is so different than everything else out there. He would be so good just to kind of help educate people a little bit about what farmers go through and some
he has seen some things he don't want to see again.
Yeah.
Just due to some financial crises. So
So basically this, I shouldn't say it's a chance encounter, but this connection you made at the Farm Machinery Show at
Yeah.
kind of the ninth hour
Yes.
was the difference maker of
It was
continuing
in
on.
our operation. Yeah.
So at this time, even back in 2015 through current, you guys have always been kind of divided up in three different sectors, you'd say, right? Cattle,
Yes.
hogs, and grain,
Yep. So
which is a little bit unique to you guys.
it's a unique operation. You see so many strictly grain farmers,
Right.
and then you've got some strictly just confined feeding operations. That's
Or strictly dairy
or strictly dairy. So.
yeah.
So yeah, in there about 2010, there was a property about 3 miles from our place. It was on CRP, Conservation Reserve Program. The owner was out of Denver, Colorado, and we got hooked up to mow this farm for him. And it was coming out of the 10-year program, which that CRP is a 10-year program. And I was asking about just renting it. And he said, I'd just be more willing to sell it. So me and John jumped in and purchased 105 acres from him. And it wasn't 8 months later, my neighbor that we was managing his cattle farm for put their farm up for sale. I'm like, man, we just bought 105 acres. Now they're throwing 225 acres at us.
Yeah.
What do we do? So me and John jumped in and bought it. So here we are in a matter of 8 months. Me and John has bought 360 some acres, But then that's when our cattle operation sprung up. So,
Right.
so we went from Dad's 12 cows, and we took Dad's cows and put with the cows we bought with that farm. So now we're at 50 cows. They were cutting hay on that farm. We had off-site hay supplies. We ramped up to 80 head of cows. And then 3 years ago, we ramped up to 120 head of cows on that farm. We retained ownership of the calves. We fattened our own calves out, which is uncommon around here.
Right.
We retained ownership of the animals until the carcass was hung on the rail, and we got paid by meat quality, try to collect some premiums. We've got 2 hog barns going.
Now, would you say that the cattle, the hog barns, I know the hog barns are probably a little bit easier to isolate out because technically you don't own the animals, you just rent the barns.
We rent the barns, yeah.
So that's a little bit different. But the cattle, the hog barns, and the grain, you almost got to view those as 3 completely separate businesses, right?
Yes and
I know
no.
they intertwine with each other, but they sell to 3 completely different markets.
We sell 3 completely different markets. So you're using, the problem I guess I find to isolate them out is you're using the same tractor for row crops versus cattle. How do you, what value do you put where? We don't keep track of, okay, we use 25 gallons of fuel to cut hay, and now we're going to use 80 gallons to go plant beans. So the fuel bill's lumped together.
Share cost.
Your liability insurance is one lump sum, so how do you split it out? And then your labor hours.
Yeah, I guess my question to follow up with that is, being diversified has its pros and cons, right?
It does, because like now the row crops are in a slump.
Right.
Cattle market's booming.
So
the pigs has been stagnant. The price we get paid to raise pigs in 1995 is the same price we get paid in 2025.
But the profit margin is not the same.
But the profit margin has shrunk because our gases went up, insurance went up, repairs goes up, utilities go up.
So are you thankful that you have the cattle to offset the grain, or do you wish you didn't have the grain right now?
No, I think it's diversified because they each got their valleys.
Because at some point, the grain's going to offset the cattle, right?
Exactly. And they had in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe
we'll do a whole other podcast on farming economics so we can get a little more in depth on.
You take hog manure. We need it on a row crop ground. It ain't cheap to move it. Do you charge the hog operation to get rid of the manure, or do you charge
the grain
the
operation.
grain for a fertilizer source, you know.
Yeah.
But yes, ag is so top technology right now. You got to be a weatherman. You got to be your financial guy. You know, I need to be sitting in the office all winter and my phone's ringing that,
Yeah.
you know, we're selling.
Which is like today you're dealing with a,
Yeah, we've got emergency manure haul job going on here.
yeah.
We've sold 850 round bales of hay, and those don't move by rolling themselves down the road. So,
And then how many square bales?
square bales, we sell about 2,000 square bales of hay. The straw, you know, we're moving about 6,000 square bales of straw. So I'm in a pickup hauling hay. Somebody calls, they need hay. We're constantly loading hay, you know, this time of year. I just look back when I was a kid and watched Grandpa and my neighbor farm.
How much simpler
They
it was?
had 50 head of cows each, 300 to 400 head of pigs, and they farmed 300 acres of row crop together. They had a school bus route they drove, made a living, happy.
Perfectly content.
You bustled through May, you bustled through October. They took summer vacations, they took winter vacations. And I mean, when our harvest wraps up, we're still wide open trying to keep things rolling right now. There just is not, but it's the size of it too. But you got to have this size because your profit margin has.
We'll get a little more detail. We're going to do the business of farming podcast. I think we'll get in more detail into this. So from 2015-ish until current, which is I guess 10 years now.
Yep.
You guys have pretty evenly, steadily grown the cattle and the grain. I know the hogs have pretty much
The
stayed.
hogs stay stagnant. Yeah, they're
You
just
got
there.
the original 2 barns you built,
Yep.
but it's
The only difference with the hogs is from 95 to 2021, we was a finisher operation. So we raised pigs for meat production.
right.
21, we switched to a gilt development unit. So we still get our pigs in at 3 weeks of age, so they're about 16, 18 pounds. We're 100% female pigs. We don't put as many in there, but they need more attention.
Right.
Different feed rations. We go from one age on the farm to now I've got 6 different age groups. So each one needs something different. We've done some breeding on our operation, artificial insemination breeding for the sow farm we're hooked into. So it took a little bit of a workload turn,
Right.
but it's more of a consistent turn because we got 250 pigs out and 250 pigs in every 4 weeks.
So it's scheduled.
It's scheduled to where the fat hogs was, you shipped out 2,500 fat hogs, you brought in 2,500 weaners and done that twice a year. So you had,
Right.
and it was hard to schedule in that workload when it wasn't a consistent workload.
Right. I know as people are going to ask how many acres you're farming. I can go ahead and answer all of them. So I'm not going to ask you that question, but percentage-wise, grain, cattle, hogs, like what's the percentage of the operation for each?
Well, the grain takes the biggest percentage for sure.
Is it over 50%?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You know, the grain side, we're rolling in on 3,000 acres. The hay side takes in another 300 acres.
Right.
And then we pasture about 180 acres. So we're
And then keep in mind, you're managing this with basically you and your brother.
me and my brother.
I know your dad still helps some, and you got a part-time helper.
Dad'll be
but-
71 in 2.5 months. And then we got one part-time hired hand that's on call. So,
Yeah.
you know, talk to some other grain operations. Kind of on the street is you need one person per 1,000 acres. And here we are pushing 3,000 acres grain,
Plus.
the hay, the cattle, the hogs, and we're doing it with 2.5 guys. So
Yeah.
we've just got so much. When you're building in such a short period, the equipment you need now
Yeah,
is expensive.
You've accumulated in 10 years what normal farms have done over 3 generations.
Yep. You know, then we've still got these land payments we're paying on. So just our overhead is very high.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just making this more and more of a case to do this business of farming podcast, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I got more questions than I got answers now.
Very,
I know the
very
question.
stressful. There's nights I lay up in bed.
I've figured out over the years that I'm kind of glad I ain't a farmer.
Yeah. I've become very good at math without a calculator at midnight in my head laying in bed.
So I'm trying to think when you and I kind of crossed paths. It was 16, 17? Somewhere in there?
17 or 18.
17 or 18?
Yep.
And that kind of started off with some, I guess it would have been.
It was about the time your podcast or your channel started, about 6 or 7
years ago.
Yeah.
I think it would have been the very end of 17.
17.
Well, the very end of 17 is when I did the first job for you because before that we built the church.
Yes. Yep.
And, but
I really didn't. I knew who you was. We wasn't involved. Dad's highly involved with the church.
yeah,
Your company was building the church.
yep.
You was doing
I was
the dirt work for it.
not the Simon's Concrete and
Yeah.
Excavating Company that is known as Dirt Perfect now, but the
Yeah.
actual construction
The
company.
construction.
Yeah,
There was a lot of original grade that needed to be moved off site.
yeah.
And Dad come home and said, "Hey, we're going to haul dirt from the church with semis." Are you freaking crazy? I ain't rolling my damn trailers over trying to haul dirt. Which I balked up on it, but you guys end up hauling it with your short trailer and your red truck then.
Did I have the red truck then? I think I did. I guess
The
I
red
did.
or green one. Yeah, you had one of those.
I can't remember.
You hauled with 2 trucks, yeah.
But you own the trailer now.
Which I own the trailer now.
That was one of those deals. I sold it to you and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's about the time we met, and then I asked you to do a job for if you'd be interested in doing a job. So it actually worked out pretty good because that's when your Simon and Harris was closing down.
Yeah, it did work out pretty good. We were, I don't know if you knew it at the time, but that was the beginning of the transition of getting out. And I was wanting to get back in. And there was another contractor you guys were using, and a lot of the other farmers were using.
Yep.
And I don't, I'm not going to speak bad of him at all, but he was kind of famously known for not finishing jobs.
Yep.
And I was smart enough to know that there was a lot of unfinished jobs out there to complete. And you farmers, as much as you like to talk crap about each other, run in a pretty tight circle.
We do.
And if you get in with one, you're kind of in with all of them.
Yeah.
And it also goes the other way. If you piss one of them off, you pissed them all off.
Yep.
And I think to some extent that's what kind of happened with the other contractor. I think he had finally burned enough. I shouldn't say he done burned enough bridges. I don't want to say anything bad about him. He's a good guy, but he had enough unfinished projects that he kind of outran.
I know the
his
straw that broke the camel back was him and Dad with politics.
Yeah.
They got into an argument, and it kind of went from there.
So I definitely was smart enough to realize the opportunity there. I didn't want to send him too overeager, but I knew if there was a chance to get in there and do a good job, and it has worked. I've done a lot of. I mean, you guys have become probably my biggest annual customer.
Yeah.
And
we're seasonal. I mean, you've realized that. You allocate some time and
but between you guys and what 3-4 other farmers, I've pretty much got to the point now where I just block my schedule off from about March till the end of June.
I was going to say end of May or mid-June, yeah.
And dedicate it to the farmers, and it's really good work, and it's a nice change from the pristine, perfect job you have to do for a customer. it's whenever you guys want me in the field, whenever you can't get in the field. So you guys don't complain about the mud,
Yeah,
the ruts, and
no.
all that stuff because you understand that's fixable.
Part of it. Yeah, it's
It's
fixable.
part of it.
Yep.
Where a normal customer don't always quite understand that. So, and I think we well documented on this channel that the first video I ever filmed was one of the first jobs I ever did for you.
Yes, it was. Yeah, hauling the 850B
Yeah,
into the job site
down there, which is where we built the lake at this summer. But
Yep.
all right, one last thing before we wrap this one up here. I've been doing YouTube for six
years probably.
Wade, which
Six
is
and a half years, yeah.
Wade, which is a good friend of ours, has been doing YouTube for, geez, what, 12, 13 years now?
Probably so. Every bit of it, yeah.
So you decided to dab your toe into the YouTube world a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I posted, it's like 35 videos
That's a few.
over a period.
Yeah. Is your very first video still the most viewed video? That's like 12 seconds?
No, actually the grain bin video is probably the most viewed.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is
it took off. So, yeah, between the farm growing, I think I fell into the rut a little faster than Logger Wade. You've seen Logger Wade
Yeah.
fall into the same rut. You was getting to put a lot more responsibility on your shoulders.
Yep.
The operation was growing.
You got to prioritize.
And, you know, I've been president of our fairgrounds for multiple years. You know, I think we're headed the right direction there. My family puts lots of time into the fairgrounds.
Yeah, your whole family,
Yeah.
in-laws and all.
I got moved in to the president of our Perry County Farm Bureau. So, you know, I'm lobbying, I guess would be the proper name for it, locally, state, and national. I'm sitting on committees for American Farm Bureau right now. And then trying to edit.
Yeah.
You can set a camera up, you can move a camera.
I
I can video. It's just the time to sit down and edit and put a decent video together.
It's a lifestyle. I mean, I've kind of figured that out over the years, and I have to. I know everybody makes fun of me of being the History Channel, but if I did not do that, it would not happen.
You know, just like today, you almost allocate the biggest part of your Sundays for YouTube.
Yeah.
With livestock rolling, we get into planting season, I don't get Sundays off. Harvest season, I don't get Sundays off. I mean, it's just, it was hard. So I threw up a video this January here, and I was pleased how well it exploded. For a channel being dead 2 years and his first video hits 33,000 views, I was shocked.
Yeah. No, that's definitely good. It's YouTube is not for everyone, but there's a lot of positives to it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like me being the History Channel. You have to figure out how it works for you.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception out there that, especially whenever you reach a certain level on YouTube, that it turns into a TV show. We don't film, we don't edit, we don't do this, we don't do that. Well, the reality of it is we still do it all.
Yep. And you know, I've looked up some other ag channels. You've got about 3 of your big ones.
Yep.
Millennial Farms,
Welkers,
Larson, and then Brian's Farming Video, Ain't No Shame. Man, you've got several small ones that just don't seem to grow or get the views. So, is there a place for Farmer Chris in this platform? But I think what feeds to the channel, I'll get a lot of bleed over from Dirt Perfect channel.
Yeah.
But there again, you named some.
We named you without you having a choice in it.
Yeah. You know, we got Logger Wade, Dirt Perfect, Captain Kleeman, Mr. Millennial, and Farmer Chris. There's 6 YouTubers in the county.
Well, then if you want to count in Andrew Sly and Roy Kramer.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think the benefit of it is we all feed off each other.
Yeah.
I mean,
it turns into a little bit of a community. And not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but I think the farming content is tough because you got these kids, I shouldn't say kids, you got this generation coming up now. I don't know what generation it is.
Yeah.
But they step into these multi-generational farms with millions and millions of dollars of equipment and assets, and they've got an iPhone and an email address, and they can immediately take advantage of all that and start filming it.
Yep.
Then you get the ones like Chet Larson that has a really good personality, or even Millennial Farmer. I'm not saying he got anything handed to him,
Yep.
but right off the bat, he had a lot of available content.
Yep.
And then it was up to that individual to make it engaging in post, and they did a good job of that. But for somebody that's trying to get their head above water in the farming industry, it makes it a little harder because there's a lot more guys out there trying to do the same thing.
Yep.
I always compare that to the landscapers. You got a couple big landscaping channels, but everybody that owns a push lawnmower, a pickup truck, and an iPhone thinks they're a YouTuber. And you got to fight yourself through the weeds a little better. And I'll be the first to admit, you know, Chris and myself, the price of entry into what we do is a lot higher than your normal landscaper. And to your point, people who run their own business in this situation, what we do, the business demands so much time, they don't have time to film.
Yeah.
Or you work for somebody else that has all this available content, but they don't want you to film it.
Yep.
So there is a lot of other smaller excavating channels out there, and there's some good ones out there, but it's the competition in my area is a little less.
And I think we discussed with the Dirt Perfect channel is your diversity helps you.
It does.
And I question if that ain't going to help the farmer Chris, because we've got all the livestock, all the row crop. You know, our semis row them, we're trucking turkey manure. I mean,
I think in some ways your channel almost becomes like a behind the scenes of farming.
It does. Yeah.
Which is a little bit different perspective.
Yep.
And your channel's not for everybody. My channel's not for everybody, but that's the beauty of YouTube. You pick and choose what you want to watch. It is really damn cool, and we got to give a tremendous amount of credit to Logger Wade for this.
He started the whole thing, didn't
But
he?
it's really damn cool, the little YouTube community we got. You know, our county, the county we live in, is 18,000 people. And then between myself, Mr. Millennial, Logger Wade, Captain Kleeman, I know Andrew Sly and Roy Kramer are different genres, but they're from this county. We bring close to 10 million views to this county a month.
A month.
And not to get off on the politics here, our county don't even know we exist.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is an absolute shame. You know, it's insane whenever other counties reach out to you to advertise for them, and your own county don't even realize you exist.
Yeah, it's interesting how many people come through Derby looking for the YouTube organization.
Yeah, and we actually just started recently tracking that. I haven't posted it on the main channel, but we got a map down at the store, so if you visit, you can put your pin up there and we can keep track of that. But yeah, it's insane the amount of people we bring in, which we greatly appreciate. It's awesome, but it's really cool the community we've been able to give, and maybe I've become the ringleader of it, but all the credit goes to Wade.
Yep.
All the credit goes to Wade. So you're, just to wrap this up here in a bow, but you've seen Wade do YouTube, you've seen me do YouTube, you've seen a lot of others do YouTube. You've been around a lot of other YouTubers. Now you've dabbled into YouTube yourself. What's your takeaway from it?
I think we've discussed it before. YouTube does an awesome job putting like-minded people together. You know, I've not been out like you do. I travel with you. You know, the people you meet is just crazy, down to earth. Just people you can hang with. You know.
Yeah.
You do see a little crazy every once in a while.
Yeah. You gotta take the, but it's just like farming. You gotta take the good with the bad, right?
But I enjoy the comments. I read the comments yet myself. I'm small enough I can read them. You know.
I can't say I get to them all anymore, but I still probably get to 90% of them, and I do my damnedest to get to them all.
Then, you know, even working on ag or anything, if I need to know how something's done, I just hop on YouTube and how do you do this or how you do that. And
I almost wish this is something to throw at YouTube. I almost wish YouTube would create a platform called YouTube University.
Yeah.
Where you could put all the educational videos kind of categorized up, because There is a lot of excellent content creators out there that make some amazing videos. It don't matter what you're working on, whether it's that hose reel or that DeWalt grinder or that remote control RC car or that steel leaf blower.
Yeah.
You go on YouTube and find somebody
There's a video that's already taken it apart and know how to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty damn awesome.
Yep.
Well, Farmer Chris, it's 2025. 5, 10, 15-year plan for the farm.
I don't know. It's a year-by-year thing anymore. It's
The goal is just to keep farming?
I've made the comment I need the hog barns to last another 10 years, at least 10 years. We're going to have to put just a little bit of money into them at one point. Right now, the cattle industry is huge, but you're limited on acres.
Right.
You don't want to go rent acres and invest money in fences and infrastructure. And then you got to build a whole new catch facility. So I don't know if our cattle will expand much unless we can take on more ground locally that we can use the infrastructure we already got.
Right. Basically take over an existing operation.
Yeah. And it's got to be within walking distance for the cattle, you know, so we can move them back and forth. The row crop side, we're going to...
I mean,
the whole ag economy we're getting into, it will change at one point. How much more equity does farmers have to use to keep hanging on to the next peak?
I mean, just from the outside perspective looking in, it's almost like do everything you can to maintain status quo the next couple of years, and then there's going to be some more decisions made.
Yep.
Because you're pretty much, I don't want to speak for you, but you're pretty much at the limit of your resources right now as far as help and everything
Labor.
else.
And it's hard to find good farm labor.
Yeah. Well, the hours are, I don't want to say as needed, but it's a demanding job.
You know, January, February, I keep somewhat busy, somebody. Yeah. But man, when it comes to April, May, June,
you need somebody that's going to go.
I need somebody that can maybe help commit to 80 hours a week. You know, it's going to be...
And be willing to drive a truck, drive a tractor, mix chemicals.
Yep, and that's the thing, mixing chemicals and doing it right.
Right.
Summer slacks off, and then falls wide open again.
Not pull down electric poles with disc.
Yeah. It's a struggle to find somebody that's willing to step in that atmosphere because it's a lifestyle.
Well, we've kind
of
covered this before too, but it's one of the reasons I refuse to get my company any bigger at this point is the
labor point.
Yeah. You know, Aaron pretty much works for me full time right now, which he's a good jack of all trades, and Jerry fills in and helps whenever I need him, but it's why I don't take on a lot of new customers because I don't have the manpower to manage it and I don't need to.
Yeah.
You
know, I could put labor in working ground, driving truck, doing hay. I just struggle to put a hard hand in a planter because if we don't get that seed.
That's where the money meets the ground.
If we don't get that seed in the ground right the first time, and we've got to come back and replant, and sometimes when we find a mistake, it's going to be too late to replant.
Yeah.
We've screwed up everything else after that.
Yeah.
And I know there's operations out there that has hard hands that they throw in there, but I think they're dedicated, knowledgeable hard hands. Yeah,
the flip side of that is too, you say you roughly farm 3,000 acres. That's amongst how many fields?
A bunch.
Yeah. Where it's putting a hard hand in that situation versus a family member on the other side of the family, 3,000 acres is one field for them.
We wrote rent checks there in December. I wrote 92 rent checks.
Yeah.
So I
was thinking you told me one time your average size field's like 14 or 15 acres.
8.5 acres.
8.5 acres.
Average field size, 8.5 acres.
Yeah, and 3,000.
Yep. That's not farm size, that's fields. So, some farms will have 3 or 4 fields. So I actually went to each field and...
which to a lot of people is insane.
Yes, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's not stupid uncommon for our area.
No, this area.
Yeah.
This area is pretty rough. You got the Hoosier National Forest sitting there taking up
76,000 acres.
76,000 acres. Residential slowly takes off here or there. Lots of woods, private woods.
Some people are still trying to farm sun.
Yeah.
So,
Son, we don't have no wind collectors around here
no,
yet.
we don't have any of the wind collectors, but yeah, it's I don't know. Going back to our podcast on current events, I'm not saying we need to swing extreme far the other way, but we definitely need to find a happy balance
Yeah,
between the
sure.
two. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up, but I think this confirms that we need to make a podcast. To follow this podcast up, I think we need to take a deep dive into the economics of farming because it is so different than anything else.
There's a lot of outside inputs, variances on them.
And just do a generic comparison of the way a farmer does business, aka you, versus the way I'm just going to say normal people operate a business, aka me, is totally like day and night.
Yes.
Day and night difference. And your expectations of your farm, my expectations of my business are also
different.
I shouldn't say expectations. The definition of success. Is that a good way to describe that?
Yep.
It's totally different. And I'm not for sure. It's taken me 5 years to kind of, I don't even fully understand it, but it's kind of taken me 5 years to kind of see it play out. So I'm confident that a lot of people out there don't fully understand the farming economy. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. You got any questions for Farmer Chris? Comment down below.
Leave
You're
them
pretty
down.
active in the comments on this channel as well.
Yep.
I will try to link Chris's actual channel down below if you want to go see him manhandle a grain bin. It's on there. As always.
That's my second video I
Is that
recorded.
the second video?
It's the first one I posted.
First one you put? Oh yeah, you still haven't posted the first
The
one.
very first video I recorded, I borrowed a camera from you.
Yeah.
You walked me through editing tools.
That's a good one too because I watched it.
Yeah, you helped me. I had it edited, and I had you kind of proof look at it.
Yeah.
And it's still sitting in my files on my iPad. I haven't.
You need to post it. That's a good one.
That was July of 2019 was the first video I recorded.
Yeah.
The COVID days. COVID was just
Yeah. I mean, everybody
out.
had a little more time then. That's how I was working on Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
That's it's officially become a COVID project. So.
Yep.
All right. I'll link you up down below. Appreciate you guys watching. Catch you on the
Thank
next
you.